Hi again everybody, it's John Cato here. I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about some of the results I'm getting, and these are, now we're getting this kind of numbers through that it's beginning to become pretty significant information, and you may or may not be surprised by the results we're getting. Some of them are certainly not what the existing council have been focusing their issues on, their efforts on, and some of them have. But it's very clear to me what needs to be done, and it will be very clear to you as well. I'm a great believer in doing the things that are most important. I've always, when running my business, I've always done the things which are most important first. It's easy to do the easy things first, but it's not effective and has no real benefit to the running of your business. And the same with the council. It's easy to do the easy things first, but it has very little benefit to the overall success and prosperity and well-being and happiness of the people in the town, in Portishead. So the questions are, what are the answers to these questions? Here's the thing I asked. Which issues in our community would you like to be addressed by the council? Please rate from not important to extremely important. Now, not important is green, as it happens, and then not so important, blue, somewhat important, the amber orange, very important is the kind of blue, this blue here, and extremely important is in this orange colour. The questions I asked are traffic in and out of Portishead. This is not necessarily in the order I asked them. Housing developments to be supported by infrastructure. Loneliness in elderly single parents and youth. Environmental issues, i.e. waste, plastic, dog excrement, litter and pollution. The community spaces, the golf course, lake grounds and so forth. Health services provision, which is another one of those issues that really is important in terms of understanding the quality of the environment that you live in. High street regeneration, as putting the high street right, getting more activity in the high street and more of that going on. West Hill regeneration, and by that, well, you can mean it to mean whatever you want, but basically it's the whole of that upper town, West Hill shopping area and all of that, and what needs to be done there. Schools, education, development of our youth, because that's obviously another issue. Getting the train line in, a lot of people talking about that. Community spaces, West Hill, Merlin Park, and all of that. And then I left also questions for people to answer, say, well, if it's not any one of these, what else is it? And I can deal with that separately to this particular video. Right, let's move on, and I'll just tell you what we've got. What are the answers to the questions? So the first one was traffic in and out of Portishead. This is almost like a no-brainer. 69.4% of you said it was extremely important. I have solutions for that. I haven't had a chance to discuss with people how to do it. Basically, the road in and out of Portishead towards the motorway is often jammed up, particularly in the times when you want to use it, in the rush hours and so forth. And there's always a blockage around the motorway, around the around the M5 junction. And I have a solution to that. It's quite simple. It stops fiddling around with trying to widen a bit here and shave a bit off of there and so forth. It does exactly what you've seen done before in the past in many places in the country, and was done in Bristol some years back. Anyway, the simple solution is to put a flyover in for everything that's trying to get into Bristol. That would immediately remove all of the traffic from going into that roundabout that is not trying to get into that roundabout. And I think that would make a dramatic improvement. You need to get some people with some modelling skills and things like that to do the proper modelling of it all, but basically that would be the solution. Another solution to get traffic in and out to the motorway more rapidly, particularly again in the rush hour, would be to make the whole of that stretch going in and out a dual carriageway, so that when people are coming in or out during the rush hour, people can actually utilize it. I think often when you try and do multi-laning, which is also done where you take the 3 lanes that already exist in quite a part of that area, and then having it so it's 2 lanes going out, 1 lane coming in when it's in the morning, and the other way around when you're going out, that is possible, but obviously prone to complications and risk, and I have seen issues with regard to accidents when you try and do something like that. However, it needs people to model it and do it, and it needs the money spending on it, and it needs the money spending on it now. Now, clearly that's not town council. It's a combination of town council, district council, and probably a whole range of other people, but it's absolutely crucial, needs to be done. Next, environmental issues: waste, plastic, dog excrement, litter and pollution. Now you can see this is actually rated as not so much a problem as the first issue we just looked at, but it still is an issue. Here, if we look at it, very important, right? That's the blue, 37.59%. Extremely important, 39%. If you add those two together, we're over 70% are saying this is a really important issue. We need to do something about it. Not as blindingly obvious as the previous one, but really, really important. Nobody has rated it as not important. Okay, see here, nobody has said it's not important. Okay, so let's move on. Getting the train line in, interestingly, some people have said it's not important, and some people have said it's not so important. So even though it scores high on the very extremely important scale here, then it drops off fast. It's a different shape curve. It's a different analysis that needs to be worked on that. The issue here, as I see it, is that the suggestion at the moment that's just been announced is saying that there'll be a train an hour, and clearly that is not going to have any effect at all, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's so important to have a train in. It absolutely is. I'm completely behind it. But 1 train an hour? I mean, you're kidding me. 1 train an hour. Let's say you're travelling into Bristol on this, and it's going to relieve the stress on the road going in and out. Okay, so you're going to catch the 7 o'clock train, get into Bristol about 7:30, sit around till 9 maybe. Probably not going to happen. So you're going to catch the 8 o'clock train, get into Bristol about 8:30. That's good. Work at 9, fine. That could work. Going to catch the 9 o'clock train? No, get me in at 9:30. By the time I get to work, 9:45. That's not going to work. So I'm not going to get the 9 o'clock train, and I'm not going to get the 7 o'clock train, and I am going to get the 8 o'clock train. And how many people are going to be getting the 8 o'clock train? Well, is it going to be a 4-coach train, or is it going to be 8 coaches? Is that going to be enough to get everybody in and out of Bristol? No, you're kidding me. It's not happening. So it obviously needs something where the train service is running more frequently, probably every 15 minutes. Again, needs to be modelled and needs to be done to serve the population. It needs to be sensible. What can I say? Enough said about that at the moment. Housing developments to be supported by infrastructure, massive number again, 65%. Interesting bell curve here again, really heavily weighted to the upper side. Very few people saying it's not important. Really important issue. You cannot carry on putting houses in and not deal with the infrastructure. And the infrastructure, obviously, from the information we've already just seen, is the roads in and out of town and the train. Right, next. Community spaces, golf course, lake grounds. Again, this is rated as very important, but this is a different shape bell curve, different attitudinal response to it. Everybody basically considering it very important, and of course it is. The quality of our environment is governed by the environment we live in, the spaces we've got to be in. We live in this town, so it's not just a place where we work or where we sleep. We actually want to enjoy being in it, and this is part of it. So the golf course and the lake grounds and all of that sort of thing is crucially important. But people aren't worried about it quite so much because it's there. So long as it's maintained, this will maintain this kind of shape on the bell curve. and we won't get this massive, extremely important spike that we were getting on the other things because it's not desperate. But people are saying it is very important. So next, loneliness in the elderly and single parents and youth, really high. I'm interested in this. Very important, really high, and also somewhat important. Again, a similar kind of bell curve, not quite so strong on the extremely important, but this is actually an issue for the community. It's something we need to do. So yeah, major. And are any of the people that are actually saying what the council is spending its money on saying it's dealing with the loneliness in the elderly, the single parents and the youth? No, not at all. This is crucial still. Look how important it is. Okay, next. West Hill regeneration. This is the whole of the upper part of West Hill and upper part of Avon Way and all of that. Again, very important. Effort's not going into that area. It is important. People aren't saying it's extremely important, okay, but effort needs to go into it. The bell curve is a little bit softer, okay, but if I had anything to say about it, I'd be putting some effort into getting that done. People in that area do need looking after and taking care of more. Next. Health service provision. Look how high that is. This again skew on this. This is to do with really housing and the infrastructure to provide it. And people are actively saying the health service provision is not sufficient. Look at the shape of that. It's not sufficient. So what do we need? We need more doctors' surgeries, more health service provision for our population. It's inadequate at the moment. And where again in all of the stuff that you've seen about saying, oh, we're spending money on this and that and the other, have you had it said that we're spending money on health service provision? We're making sure that this is being really addressed. Look, this is a huge spike. I can't tell you how big that is. Next, High Street regeneration. There is work going on in that. You can see people think it's important, and therefore it's really good that people are doing that. Money is being spent in those areas down the High Street. It's a bell-shaped curve again. It's a different shape from the one with the massive spikes on the extremely important. So it is very important and somewhat important, and that those two together with this one here are a big number. Important to address it. Important to make sure that the High Street is a place for community and for connection, which it is through various ways, but maybe we could do more about that. Community and connection is the way in which you grow a healthy community. So anyway, I'm going on. Next. Community spaces in West Hill and Merlin Park. Again, quite a big bell curve here. Needs effort going into these places. People, you recognise that this is important. Community spaces in this way is important to you. Next. Schools, education, development of our youth. Look how high that is. Look how high it is, how important people consider this. And you tend to get these ratings of very important and extremely important when people are feeling a little like disgruntled, shall we say, that there's not enough going on in these areas. The bell curve would be more soft, as we've seen in some of the other things. So it'd be more like somewhat important if it was being addressed. It's not therefore being addressed sufficiently well. It's quite clear where you'd put the effort. You'd put the effort on the things that are the biggest issues first. You deal with the smaller issues later. It's not rocket science. The challenges of doing it, now the mechanics of doing it, that may well be a challenge. Where you get the money from, how you manage the whole processes, how you engage with the different bodies that enable these things to happen. That's a different issue. But the first thing to do is to decide. Your life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by choice and by action. And you have to choose the bigger issues over the smaller issues. It's not rocket science. It's just common sense, but it needs to be done. So you really must vote for the people that you think are going to get this done. Anyway, this is John Cato wishing you well and every happiness.